Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome again to another edition of 95X Live. I am Dixon, joined today by Emily of the Canadian sensations known as Metric. Emily, how are you today?
Really well, thanks.
Thank you so much for taking the time to do this today. I know there's a lot going on in the world of Metric right now, so I genuinely appreciate your time.
Yeah, it's cool. It's good to get pumped up because we're deep in production rehearsals, and then I start my day every day with a couple hours of press, and it definitely gets me amped. So it's good. This is good.
Very cool. Well, congratulations first and foremost on your 8th official release, Fromentera, that came out on July 8th and features a single that's slowly but steadily climbing the charts called All Comes Crashing, one of my favorites in the entire Metric catalog.
Wow, thank you. Yeah, that song has got the little engine that could, because it went to #1 at Alternative Rock in Canada. We're like, yay! And then it just got back up to #1, which I don't know if we've set records before for being. I think Youth Without Youth was like some crazy amount of time, but it's kind of a fun feeling to be like, oh, I didn't know that like gravity could go the other direction. So, but I guess in 2022, anything's possible.
Well, absolutely. I think the thing that I really enjoy about songs like All Comes Crashing, when they make that gradual rise up the American charts, is that they have a tendency to stick around a little bit longer. With the attention span of human beings in the present day, I feel like the faster something gets to #1, its decline is just as quick, if not quicker. And I look at recent examples like Broken from Lovely the Band that spent forever getting to the top, but it's become part of the fabric of what alternative is in 2022. And I think that this track also has that ability to not only rise slowly, but make a lasting foothold in what we all sort of realize is this universe of modern alternative music.
Wow, I hope that you're right, because it's an interesting definition too. Like it's a funny time for rock, and you know, we could have a whole separate conversation about that. But you know, I feel like that's always been sort of the riddle for Metric, is this like, you know, this hybrid of what is modern rock. Like obviously our ethos is indie, but you know, there was a period of time when indie was like a guitar tone, and we certainly are not afraid of big guitars that don't sound indie. But also our fascination with electronic music, and you know, like John Hopkins in the Field, and you know, finding that spot where dance music meets rock, where it's the right mixture for us, because it's a tricky hybrid. But I'm excited to be part of whatever this next wave of sonically is happening in rock. I'm really happy that we get to be part of it, because something's happening.
Oh, there certainly is. And I think there's a group of bands like yourself that would probably also include Foles, your fellow Canadians in Bob Moses, that have this lean into electronic music in a way that American bands have a tendency to be all or nothing. It's either all electronic or it's all rock, and it's very few and far between when you find bands that can combine the two in a way that not only makes sense, but is ultimately at the end very palatable.
Yeah, and it's funny, I almost think of it as like in a social way, like when you picture the high school cafeteria and we all get, you know, broken up into groups of like, you're a jock and you're a goth and you're a punk and all this crap. And I really love the idea that musically, people are more open-minded than they're given credit for. And you could be like a rock fan, but you can also, you know, it's not like you can't handle an electronic kick drum, you know, or like feel something emotional with modular synthesis. Like, you know, and I do think the distinctions, similar with guitar tones, like the distinctions between certain kinds of synthesizers, like some things will evoke new wave 80s, you know, you're kind of picturing bad hair and like bad chords on a keyboard, is a world away from the kind of like modular synthesis stuff that Jimmy is doing on Metric Records, and lots of other artists are exploring. So I like the idea that socially it's like bringing people together, because I'm a big hippie like that, where I just want everyone to get along. I do feel like I've seen it firsthand with music, where it's like, can we please find some commonality here and have a good time before we're all dead? That's really become an urgent plea at this point.
Absolutely. I think part of the problem is a problem across all forms of music, which is gatekeeping, right? Like there are the elders or the super fans of certain things that just want what a band has done previously, right? It's just like I love and hate Reddit at the same time, because there are great communities on there that understand that artists like yourselves are going to evolve and grow and push boundaries over the course of time. And then there's fans that are like, well, it doesn't sound like fantasy, so I don't care. And it's just it's that second mentality that bums me out, because I think part of the whole procedure of enjoying art and following bands is jumping in and taking that journey with them. And I love the fact that there's been this natural growth, progression, evolution, whatever you want to label it as, from your earlier records. And for people that don't know, Metric's been a band for well over 20 years. There is a rich catalog of music out there to go and enjoy. And I give you guys so much credit for being so forward thinking and being so far ahead of the curve, because I came along to your music in 2009-ish. With Fantasies, and Help I'm Alive was the first song I ever heard. It was a video I saw, I think, on Much Music. And it was around the same time that I had discovered bands like the Silver Sun Pickups and Manchester Orchestra that were also pushing boundaries and changing the definition of what alternative rock was at that time. And you guys really stood out to me, because ultimately there were very few bands outside of like maybe the Yeah Yeah Yeahs and Rilo Kiley that had a very distinct female presence out front in the vocal. And because your vocal is so distinct, it's one of those things that's just stuck with me over the years, from album to album, and being able to hear and watch you guys progress has truly been heartwarming.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, and it's interesting too, to your point of like, you know, being open to the changes that naturally will happen. Ideally, you know, the alternative is that you just repeat yourself over and over again. But it's kind of a funny one with us, I think, because Old World Underground, Where Are You Now, came out in 2003. So, which astonishingly coming up on 20 years on that. But you press play on that. I mean, that first song, IOU, this is not a straightforward. It's not like we went from like straightforward 3-minute pop songs and churned into, you know, like metal. Everything, it was shocking to me to listen to Fromentera and listen to Old World. Because if you're in a shuffle between them, there is this continuity, I find, of like, I think it was almost like a statement of purpose. Not that I had any idea what I was doing, you know, playing for 20 people at the Silver Lake Lounge 20 years ago, but it's in there. The seeds of everything we've done on Fromentera and the progress that we wanted to make is represented in that early work. But everyone's going to have a favorite album. I do feel like sometimes on Reddit, though, it's like they're all archivists. They know, which is amazing, but people know stuff. They're like, oh yeah, that's from this reference to this thing. I'm like, man, I don't even remember. This is great. Thanks, guys.
There you go. They'll connect the dots for you.
That's right. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, with Formentera, the latest album available everywhere now, there seems to be a certain like this palpable urgency, not only to the music, but to some of the lyrical content. And I have to ask the obvious question, which is, was the pandemic and the thing going on worldwide an influence on the sound or lyrical content of the new album?
Yeah, I mean, we couldn't get Josh and Jules across the border. They both live in the States for over a year, which was in itself like one of the most traumatic and crazy things, let alone not playing a show for so long. But it was really a riddle, because I was like, damn it, I don't want to write about this terrible thing. You know, we're going to want to put this thing so far in the rearview mirror. Like, I don't want to have a record that's like about that. And so we really tried to visualize this moment when we would be coming out of it, and that this would soundtrack everyone being, you know, like, phew, I'm done with that. You know, like the first lyric of All Comes Crashing is like starting over, you know, and that doesn't have to be about this. It could be a relationship, and could be, you know, all themes apply. But for sure, the urgency and the tension and anxiety and stuff that you are picking up on is definitely, you know, like the mental health crisis of a bunch of people locked down globally. There's no way I couldn't let that affect what I was writing. But I hope that we achieved what we wanted to, which is that this is you know, Formentera is meant to be the next thing. It's not dwelling. It's not looking back. It's being like, all right, let's get this out of the way. You know, most of it gets handled in doom scroller, and then we can get on with our lives and find happiness, you know, hopefully.
Well, there certainly is a cathartic nature to the album, which I really enjoy. I mean, I'm a weird old romantic when it comes to music. So for me, like, I always have these sort of analogies. And for me, Formentera is sort of like a thrill ride at a park, right? Like, first and foremost, I want to say really ballsy move opening the album with a 10-minute track, because most bands, artists would put that towards the end of the record, right? But to open with a 10+ minute song with Doom Scroller, which to me is just transcendent. It has this dichotomy of both being lush, but also being sort of jagged at times. It's you guys balance everything that you do musically so well that I can't even describe sometimes the feeling that the music on this record sort of gives me. And granted, I've only had a couple of weeks to spend with the entire record, but it's one that I keep listening to over and over again. Just that bombacity and epic nature of Doom Scroller is, for me, a perfect way to start that album. Goes directly into the single. There's some great albums, but for me, what catches me are the last three. And it's False Dichotomy, Oh Please, Paths in the Sky. You guys have set this record up in a way that I think is very forward thinking, right? Because you start on that epic note, you get into the single, there's some more tracks, but it's those last three that are like Doom Scrollers going up the hill on the roller coaster, right? And then you get that drop off. And then those last three are like the loops at the end that make you go, oh, I gotta get back on that ride. Because for me, I can't end the record and then just walk away from it. I've got to, at the very least, go back and put Doom Scroller on one more time, which then leads you to the way, well, I've got to hear All Comes Crashing again. And then you find yourself in this loop where you've heard the record 3 times. I adore it. You've won multiple awards in the past, Junos and some other Canadian awards. I think, and again, I've only had a few weeks to spend with this, but if this doesn't get into consideration for a Grammy Award for February, like, I will be shocked. It really is, in my opinion, one of the most important records thus far in 2022. And I think that if more bands took your lead and were as brave as you guys were to do some of the artistic, well thought out things that you've done with the record, that the entire sort of genre could move forward a little bit.
Amen. I'd love to see that, because, you know, I romanticize, you know, you said you're a bit of a romantic, like, I romanticize the early days when there were so many bands, you know, like in 2004, like around that time when we were in New York and we were in LA and everything that was happening in Canada. And it really felt like there was just so much great music. And I feel like rock has taken a hit, and I'd love to feel like I could be part of a bit of the solution of, like, let's find some common language here of, like, what we're trying to push forward, what the point is of all of this, you know. I mean, like, when you start a band, people have different reasons for doing things, but for us, like, it really is about something. It is about, you know, being useful to people in their lives, you know, as this has connected with you, and having a cultural moment where you can be like, this was the time that we all lived in. This was the music that was relevant. These are the sounds that resonated with us for all these different reasons. And lyrically, this was, you know, addressing the world that we live in. And I just feel like that sense of cohesion only comes when you can have some kind of movement of, like, you can have this band and that band. They're like, competition is good, you know, like, lots of different people really trying to be at the top of their craft. And it doesn't feel like that's the moment that we're in right now, but we are definitely just, like, going ahead as if it was. And I'm constantly looking for new music. I'm always listening to new bands and, like, being, you know, getting hopeful that there's something amazing around the corner. So I really appreciate the way you've articulated that this is, at least I can feel like people are noticing the work and craft that goes into making a Metric record. And, you know, we take people's time seriously. Like, you're taking the time to, you know, hang out with this music. It means a lot.
It always feels good to be seen. And I think with this record, there's no doubt that you will be seen by an entire new audience. I know we're running short of time, so I just want to say thank you once again for spending the time to chat today. Do want to mention that the album Fromentera is out and available everywhere now. The Doom Scroller tour is on sale. I saw that there was a low ticket alert for night 2 in Brooklyn at Brooklyn Steel. So if you plan on going to that show, go get your tickets now. And make sure you check out ilovemetric.com as well for all sorts of stuff. You've got some limited edition vinyl. And of course, that's the hub to find the tickets as well. Emily, thank you so much for your time today. I wish you nothing but success going forward. And I hope you have the time of your life on this Doom Scroller tour. Thank you again for everything.
Thank you.
Take care. This has been 95X Live with Metric.